Welcome back to the Smart Driving Cars podcast, a special edition with NVIDIA's Danny Shapiro. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University and co-author of the new book, The Real Case for Driverless Mobility, Alain Kornhauser. Hi, Alain.
Hey, good afternoon, Fred.
Good afternoon. And like we said, we're happy to have back with us the VP of Automotive at NVIDIA, Danny Shapiro.
Hey, guys. So good to be with you, as always.
And there is a lot to congratulate you and the team at NVIDIA about following a very successful GTC. And Alain, you were out there.
It was just eye-opening. I went back to class on Wednesday, unfortunately missing, I guess, what was the really good part of the session. And I just told the kids, I mean, you know, we have to change the remainder of this course a little bit, because the amount of computing power and capabilities and so on that you're going to have available to you in the coming years, it should benefit from you having a little different approach to the ways that we've been solving problems and addressing things. This is I see it as a major sea change. I don't know where I've been. Maybe COVID got me or something like that or whatever. And certainly I've been watching all the, I don't like the term AI because I don't really think it is that good. I mean, it is really good. It may not be that good, but the opportunities that all this provides one to take a look and do things that otherwise, you know, we were just dismissing. Can't do that. We have to do this. And so, and I made everybody, of course, watch Jensen's keynote. There are some pearls of wisdom in there that are wow. And maybe we'll get to a couple of them. So, Danny, so great to have you.
Yeah, it was a really great week for us. Of course, it was fun having you there. We had almost 20,000 people come to GTC. Blew out all records. The keynote moved to the San Jose Sharks Arena. So that's where the professional hockey team plays. So it was a massive venue with the skyboxes, and you know, they took the ice out and had chairs there. It was like a big concert venue, massive screen. Jensen did a 2-hour keynote, announced a lot of great things, not just automotive, right? Automotive's a really small part.
Very small piece, yeah.
Of what we did, but our new generation of technology that we're bringing out called Blackwell, that's the new platform. We're going to bring that into the cars as well in our next generation of our SoC for autonomous. But the kind of sea change is all about generative AI. And you know, we've been talking about this for over a year with ChatGPT, but it's not just text. It's every type of data being transformed and being generated for you know, ways to rethink how people do their jobs and be able to do it better.
Right, and not only rethink how people do their jobs, but how one is going to approach things. The opportunity to have that accessibility to compute power and data and bring that together and do things on the fly dynamically in real time to just help and to I guess do it at a price point that is it's totally disruptive. You know, I'm a big Schumpeter fan that, you know, that talk about the economics of these things, which really make them go. You know, the things that are substantial quality and improvements over the way that one's been doing things. And those are the disruptive elements that allow you to go and do things you never thought you could do, and maybe you never even sort of thought you even wanted to do, but all of a sudden it's sitting there, and my goodness, one's doing great things. So
I think that the big breakthroughs that we're now showcasing really are, it's not just individual processors, right? We've been talking about GPUs for more than 2 decades, and it's this massively parallel processor. But now what we've brought out is a whole system that lets you build out racks and racks of GPUs that perform as if they were a single GPU. So still you can get that whole data flow, massive data sets flowing through, and it's extremely computationally efficient and energy efficient. So, NVIDIA is selling, very small GPUs or SoCs that go into the car, but now basically the unit of computing is also a data center and a whole NVIDIA data center to handle whatever your data processing tasks are. And
What
in this case
I
of
got the most,
self-driving,
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
in the case of self-driving, it's about being able to very efficiently get all that data in and be able to create these super sophisticated neural networks. And now moving to more of an end-to-end approach of massive data sets, but so many layers, and these neural nets able to achieve so much more than they used to be able to achieve.
To me, one of the things that maybe I have it wrong, but that what you seem to have put onto all this is that you're doing all the overhead and all the work required so that one can easily do these things and bring it all together. It's one thing to sit there and write the code and do all the things in parallel and get the timings right and then bring it all together. Because at some point you have to bring everything together, add it up, boom, and then spread out and do a bunch of things in parallel. I mean, this has been sort of the dance that one does in parallel computing. We've been doing this since you were here, or at least that was the beginning of it when you were here. And all of a sudden, one could do that, but there's just an enormous amount of overhead when you're creating the application to make sure you do all that right. And one of the things that I sort of took out of the keynote was, my goodness, you've put in all the support overheads that go in there and do that. Not that I don't want to be the greatest programmer in the world and write all the greatest code, but you sort of help me out and check me to do that kind of thing so that it works well.
Right. You're absolutely right. It's not just about, okay, here's the hardware. Now you have to go out and build everything. We're bringing together the tools. We're working with a lot of partners to bring all those different layers of software in. But now it's much more turnkey, and you don't need to be a programmer to leverage it. And you can then deploy it in the cloud. You can deploy it on premises on your own systems. You can deploy it on mobile devices, on the edge. So it's really easy. We've rolled out all kinds of new microservices to enable you to do that. And now large language models are just another layer that's changing it. Whether you're designing something, whether you're laying out a factory, whether you want to create scenarios for simulation, a lot of it's prompt-based. So you can type in what you want, and the code will be generated, the scripts will be generated, the scenarios will be generated, the retail experience will be generated. So all these tools are being put in place to, again, help people be more efficient and do better work.
Yes.
And what you're seeing are people signing up for this left and right. Tell us about some of the new partnerships that were announced.
Well, that's a great segue. We announced BYD, so the world's largest EV maker, is using NVIDIA end-to-end. So first, they're taking Drive Thor, which is our next generation system for in-vehicle AI, whether it's cabin AI and cockpit and large language models with voice interaction, to driver assistance, automated driving, and fully autonomous at some point. So that's the in-vehicle portion, but then they're also using NVIDIA AI for training of their neural nets, for simulation using Omniverse and our Isaac Sim for factory robots and laying out their factories and planning them, as well as then generative AI for car configurators. So the NVIDIA platform just spans across every department in BYD now, and both inside the car and in the data center.
And you mentioned this integrates with the new Blackwell architecture. Tell us
So
a little bit more about that and the capabilities here.
Sure. Blackwell's been designed now, building on everything else, so it's fully compatible with CUDA and all of our software stacks, but the focus being transformers and what is kind of at the fore of with ChatGPT, these generative pre-trained transformers. So Blackwell is designed for generative AI, and we'll be seeing that all kinds of new use cases in the data center, but also running large language models in the car. So you'll be able to have a conversation with the vehicle. It'll be trained on everything about your car, everything about that particular brand. We'll be able to sense what's happening in the car, give you alerts, but also be your concierge. And then they'll be connected. So if it's not something to do with the vehicle itself, it will go off into the cloud to get whatever information it needs.
So Until now, it seemed like there's been this evolution taking place, and we've been talking to you. Thank you very much for joining us for years. And Jensen Huang, the CEO, used the phrase revolution, a new industrial revolution. So is it now the speed at which things are taking place seeming to you to be a real revolution?
I think I don't know if so much if it's the speed, but just the opportunity and what is opened up now. We've been working with, first graphics, then you saw explosive applications of computer graphics across every industry, healthcare, automotive, energy, finance, entertainment, of course. Now we're seeing the same thing happen with artificial intelligence and more recently generative AI, where these tools are enabling people to do their jobs, whatever they are, much better. It's not going to replace them, but it's a tool for them to be able to create and build systems, to experiment, to generate new ideas. And so from the game developers and the visual effects houses to doctors and nurses to Wall Street, they're all embracing this new technology. And within the auto industry, it's really going to change how cars are designed, how they're built, how they're sold, and also how they perform on the road, the level of safety, as well as then that user experience inside. It's all part of this new wave of generative AI.
It seems that the real help to the individual is that at times it's tough to get started. I've been telling in my class, you got to get started, and from that you iterate. Okay, you never. Well, I don't know. I've certainly never been good enough to create right out of the box, and the real value that I'm seeing and hearing, and we heard it from Jamie Inon this morning at eBay, that it allows people in the organization to get started, and then they become more editors. Not that they're not creating; their creation is then used in the editing process after the initial thing, and they have the opportunity to in taking a particular task, not have something to start with, that then tends to jiggle their minds even better in terms of now how to iterate it. And they might do, as we've done many times in doing things, we do something, then we throw in the garbage can, and then finally get something, and then boom, 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 and explode out of it. And it just seems that to me, that's where the way the processes in which you approach to do something changes here, is because you now have this tool that helps you both get started and then supports you now in the iterative process. We've been doing this somewhat in computer graphics almost since day one, but now to take it and take it into all these other sectors, it just seems that, oh my goodness, this is a substantially different way in which you think about approaching problems, whatever business you're in.
Yeah, these systems, they're really like co-pilots, an AI assistant, a concierge, whatever you want to call it. They'll come up with a bunch of different permutations of your initial design, and then you can pick one of those and iterate on that, and then branch out and do more work. For synthetic data generation, it's huge. So it doesn't matter whether you're doing a system for self-driving or an architecture or whatever it may be. In logistics, so Amazon had changed the tape, like for the holidays, on all the packages, and the vision systems were failing. They weren't recognizing the packages because they were trained with maybe blue tape, and now there was red and green tape or something like that. So they were able to go in and use generative AI to create a bunch of different data sets to retrain the robots and the vision system for the robots to be able to recognize and orient the packages based on the new tape. And so they were able to do this just overnight, and it's something that could have been catastrophic was able to be fixed. And so these, again, are tools that are used to help people, whether they're designers or engineers or doctors or lawyers.
No, well, we've been talking about this sort of thing for almost since day one as the positioning at NVIDIA, because the simulation piece in this whole automated vehicle stuff that we deal with, you've been that's been one of your pillars since the beginning, the opportunity to basically create an environment in the virtual world that otherwise in the real world, I mean, you just cut it out. We're not going to try. What we can't, but in this, and also to then take that so that the processes learn and improve. So yeah, it's really neat to see.
Another aspect of GTC was just the growth of the robotics industry. So, I mean, you could argue self-driving cars are one form of robot,
Yeah.
but we had all kinds of medical and surgical robots now that are being developed, and just the precision. First using simulation to be able to train those robots, but just the ability to be this assistant for surgeons was quite phenomenal. And other cobots that, traditionally on the assembly line, you have these big robot arms moving and they're in a cage, right? You don't want to get close, but now all these humanoid robots, I think that's going to be a really exciting next wave where they're designed to to be the sort of form factors of us and the factory workers, and be able to interact with them and have vision systems so that they can coexist, and they'll recognize somebody's next to them and will not, pose a risk.
And I think Jensen was on stage with a kind of a cadre of those
That's right.
robots.
So again, NVIDIA, we're not building the robots, but we're
Yep.
building all the technology that's enabling all these robotics companies to go to market with everything from AMRs to autonomous, forklifts, to then these humanoid robots will be the next wave for sure.
You mentioned some of the new customers for Drive Thor. When do you anticipate we're going to see production vehicles starting to arrive that make use of it?
Yeah, so we're out in production today with Drive Orin. That's in Polestar and Volvo and NIO and XPeng and Li Auto and a whole host of others. And so the fact that these companies are on our architecture, it's very easy for them to transition to the next generation. So a number of them have announced Drive Thor. We also announced Nuro, the autonomous delivery company, is coming to market, and WeRide, Wabi. So a lot of passenger vehicles as well as other types of autonomous vehicles. It's starting next year that Thor will be available.
Yeah, Roar was there, and Wabi made a very nice presentation. You guys made an excellent presentation. It was very nice.
It's quite astounding amount of content, over 900 sessions during the week at the conference. Around 50 or so were automotive focused. Cool thing is everyone can log in to the GTC website and watch on demand starting next week.
Yep, and we'll put it out there in the newsletter. Make sure people go and direct them in various places, and they can hunt and find what's really pertinent to them.
Yeah, and all of this is attracting a lot of mainstream media now too, including the biggest names. Maybe you can name drop a little bit for us here, because you're getting a lot of attention.
I think there were over 350 press who attended. Of course, the standard automotive publication, Automotive News and Motor Trend and others, but across all sectors and even mainstream. Yahoo Finance was broadcasting live from their VentureBeat broadcasting live. Lots of podcasts. Jim Cramer, Mad Money, CNBC set up a studio in the middle of the convention center and was broadcasting there. And 60 Minutes was cruising the show floor and interviewing people and doing a whole segment on NVIDIA. So stay tuned for that coming soon.
That's exciting. What can you tell us, and this may be an area that you don't want to comment on, but what can you tell us about concerns some have raised about the use of NVIDIA's technology by Chinese automakers? You mentioned BYD, for instance.
Yeah,
and how NVIDIA addresses those concerns.
We work with a lot of Chinese automakers. There are a lot more Chinese automakers than anywhere in the world. They're the largest market, and people might not realize that. But we have no exclusivity. We supply customers in Europe, North America, Japan, China, Korea, Vietnam even. We have customers, automakers there. There, of course, are certain restrictions that have been put in place by the US government with respect to our very high-end products at the data center that need a special export license to go to China. But the automotive solutions do not meet any of the criteria for that. And so there's no restrictions put on place there. And so we comply with all rules and regulations, and we support our customers globally. The fact that they're innovating is great. They're collecting data in their country. They're training on those data sets and deploying vehicles. So I think there's just a great opportunity we have to serve the global car industry, and that's what we're doing.
My assumption is all of this has been going on, especially for whatever reason, the last few months, doesn't hurt when it comes to recruiting talent. There's so much competition out there for Alain's kids and many more.
So we are
For Danny
hiring.
Shapiro's. I mean, come on.
We are hiring. We have great internship programs. I think most of them are pretty full for this summer, but future summers there's great student opportunities while in college, new college hires, and as a company we're growing quite a bit.
Really, really exciting. Well, Alain, that kind of leads us to the 6th Smart Driving Car Summit in Princeton, getting pretty close, coming up the end of May. And as we said, this is going to be really a series of very meaningful discussions.
Yeah, and we're hoping NVIDIA comes. I hope you come again, Danny. I don't know, you haven't decided yet, but not well, whatever. Yes, it is. I think it's the opportunity. As everybody knows, I'm sort of trying to be out there making sure that all this stuff gives rides to people, not only safely but affordably. And to me, there are really two disruptive elements of automation and mobility, and sure, safety is one of them, but the real opportunity is to just give a heck of a lot better service more affordably. And this is always the fundamental element of everything that happens. I mean, that's why we use the cell phones and all the other changes. I mean, I call Elizabeth in the house sometimes.
That's amazing.
I mean, my mother. We would. Who would have ever thought of putting like 10 cents or a nickel in a payphone to call somebody in the house? Okay, now what value does that deliver? I mean, I'm not yelling, and so that's not much of a value to have me not yell. But why do we do that? It's because it's not we're wasting stuff. The marginal cost of doing these things and the performance that it gives you is such that it's completely disruptive. And to me, that's the opportunity of writing some code or have NVIDIA processors write code for me that just basically manages the vehicles and has them show up at the time they need to show up, where or close to where you are, and take you to where you want to go. No big deal. And then to have when the bill comes in for that to be such that, because of the power and the scale and so on that one builds, when one looks at the cost per whatever, it's really a lot more segment of the population can afford it, and that's how you build scale. I mean, it's not I mean, how have you built scale? That's what you've done. If you were still putting out the floating point instructions per second per dollar that you were, whatever, 25 years ago, we wouldn't be here. But the real opportunity here is the opportunity to have, floating point instruction per whatever per second per dollar to be, and the charts that Jensen was. I mean, it's just wow. Being 10 to the 18th floating point. Whoa. And to have all the support in there to help you do it. And sure, you want to be able to do it. You want to be able to sort of know how to do it, but you need help to take care of the details. Make sure you have the semicolon at the end of the line, whatever the equivalent of that is today, and so that we're able to each deliver more value to society. I mean, that's what you're in the business of doing, and it's just wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, they've built the technology, helped to build the technology that's the underpinning for you being able to write a book called The Real Case for Driverless Mobility.
Yeah, I mean, what's sort of, it's got to be able to do it. Okay. It has to be able to do it. It has to be safe enough. It has to be that. Okay, without smoke and mirrors. Okay. But we are so close, and I guess I do need to point out that Fred took me for a ride on Friday, and we are getting so close, and and we sort of always known that to be able to look at this problem on an end-to-end basis as opposed to the piece basis, and as opposed to bringing together the as many of the experiences so that we pick up the tails of the distribution and so on, and have the probability such that my goodness, I haven't seen this before and I don't know what to do. It's so small that we're never going to be able to drive that to zero. I mean, nothing is perfect. Sorry, you are, Danny, but but and such that the real value proposition can be delivered through a broader range of society, and let everybody have the opportunity to be able to get from A to B at time T when they would like to do that. So I mean, that's what I see. And my goodness, even though sort of the whole industry is a little bit, we had a few little setbacks there in San Francisco and so on. It is really close, and now we need to look at how do we really bring that value to people, because in the end, that's what whom we're trying to help with all this is a bunch of individual people make their lives better. I guess.
One of the vehicles we had was the WeRide Robobus, and it's already operating autonomously in Beijing, in Singapore, in Abu Dhabi. So there's there's light at the tunnel out there coming. It's working.
Yeah, and you don't just, I mean, my view is, yes, there are places in which you want a big bus and you have the opportunity to have a lot of people going from A to B, but that's not the way we're structured here. That's less than 3% of the market. The other 97% of I want to go from here to there. And not necessarily far. And the great opportunity of having NVIDIA and all this compute power is that now the system can respond to us. We don't have to respond to the system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it has the power to boom. In fact, in our simulations of these things, the level of service off peak is really much better than on peak. Why? Because you scale the whole fleet to do the peak, and the off peak, as I like to say, they're all sitting there like little puppy dogs. Oh, use me, please. Somebody send me some code to go over here, pick somebody up, do something, serve them. This is transformative, I think, but of course that's kind of the way we approach. I don't know. That's us.
And we're gonna also see just a lot of goods transportation. So whether it's the trucking side, whether it's last mile delivery, anything that can go at night too, I think it's going to really be a boon to the overall transportation system.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my goodness, when should packages be delivered to my house? I think we've talked about this before, between midnight and 5 a.m. I mean, I guess I wanted it before I went to bed. When did the milkman in Brooklyn with his horse and buggy come with the milk bottles, in the early morning, so that when we got the roads aren't being used. There's nobody out there. There's no children chasing balls. I mean, it's dark, but that doesn't hurt us. We have lights too. Anyway.
Just terrific. Well, Danny, we really appreciate you spending time with us today. Congratulations again on all that you and the great team at NVIDIA are achieving. Just amazing.
It was very impressive.
Thank
Knock
you.
your socks off.
it's really fun to be involved in the industry. There's so many people at NVIDIA, thousands of people working on this technology. Huge investment that we make, but it's really about the ecosystem. And so from the other software companies, the mapping companies, the sensor companies, and the OEMs really working together. And I think that the industry maybe went through this period of concern and rivalries, and are the tech companies going to compete with us? But we really have great partnerships that we're building on and delivering together. So it's a lot of fun, whether it's Mercedes, Jaguar Land Rover, Volvo, Polestar, all these companies were there showcasing their vehicles and turned a part of the show floor into an auto show. Is really cool. And new models that are coming out later this year, one-of-a-kind vehicles now from a concept, were on display, but soon will be out in the marketplace.
Well, you can find us at smartdrivingcar.com, also on Spotify, TuneIn, Apple, Google, Amazon, wherever you turn to for podcasts. Smart speakers can play us too. My tech reports are at Techstination.com. I'm Fred Fishkin along with Alain Kornhauser. Thank you for listening or watching. Please continue to stay safe.
Thank you, Danny. Keep it going, baby. Keep it going.
We're working on it. We're just getting started.